Exeter City Council meeting. We have an early start time to, since we're on video and there's no travel required. Justin, can you make sure that all council members are unmuted, please? It looks like Scott Bell is still muted.
I wasn't sure if that was intentional or not. I'm going to go with not for now.
Okay, bye,
Bye,
Mike.
everybody.
Hi, Scott.
We have a pretty good list of folks today, so it takes me a minute to scroll through and find the person I'm looking for.
No, you're okay. No problem at all. With that, I'd like to call the meeting to order and ask everybody to, if you want to unmute everybody so we can share in the Pledge of Allegiance, we can do that, please. I pledge allegiance
To
to the flag
Flag
Of the
of the United States
of America.
and to the republic for which it stands,
one
nation,
under
God,
God,
indivisible, with liberty
and justice for all.
all.
Thank you for participating, everyone, in that. Okay, and then Justin, you'll put the agenda back up after that, right? Okay. Ms. Jones, if you could please call the roll, I'd appreciate it.
Oh, that'll be me, Sean.
All right, Justin, no problem. If you would do it, I would appreciate it, please.
All right. Councilmember Bell,
Present.
Cousins,
Yes.
Fisher, Knight,
Here.
Michelle's,
Present.
Smith,
Yes.
Mayor Keough.
Yes. Item C tonight is approval of the meeting minutes from our regular city council meeting of April 13th, 2020.
I'll move to approve those minutes.
Okay, moved by Knight, thank you.
I'll support that.
Supported by Jim Smith. Thank you both, or thank you. Ms. Knight, any comments on the meeting minutes?
No,
Mr. Smith?
Yes, on page
Okay.
5, under L5 at the very top, under the comment there where council member inquired, we need a last name for the council person that did the inquiry there.
Yep, okay.
I think it might have been Zach, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think it was Michelle's.
Okay. Do we have anything else to correct in the meeting minutes that anybody else noticed?
Just Mr. McCarger's address.
Okay, what should it be?
It should be on Hudson, not Second.
Gotcha. Yeah, okay, that makes sense. Okay, I don't see anybody else have their hands up. Are there any council members that have any other corrections for the minutes? Seeing none. All those in favor of approving the meeting minutes signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, thank you. They let me get away with the non-roll call vote on the approval of the minutes and the agenda. Other than that, we have to do the roll call, so. Okay. Oh, Justin, I've lost the screen.
The share.
It's
Hold on,
still-
sorry, I'm back. I'm back. I had an unstable connection. Can you scroll down on the agenda, please?
I sure can.
I know we have no prearranged participation. I just wanted to show that next up is item E, approval of the agenda.
I'll make
that motion, Cousins.
Okay, motion by Cousins. Thank you.
second,
Second by Knight. Thank you both. I don't believe we have anything to add or change other than there was an additional updated agreement provided to council, I believe, on, was it Thursday or Friday? Did everybody receive that agreement related to the UIS item?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, I believe that's the only additional information that's out there. Okay, so motion by Cousins, second by Knight to approve the agenda with the one piece of information, if that's okay.
Correct.
Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Thank you. So we'll move down the agenda a little bit. We don't have any public hearings this evening, and we're down to non-arranged participation. And I know that there are a few interested students in our audience today that would like to speak this evening, and I'm anticipating Shepard Thompson, Charlie, forgive me, Konazuski, if I got that close, and Aaron Nyman, I believe, will be speaking this evening. So Justin, if you could make sure that they're unmuted, maybe we'll start with Shepard if they're ready.
My name is Shepard Thompson. The students of Wiley Elementary have been studying government and how citizens can make an impact on their home, their school, communities, country, and world. Since the outbreak of coronavirus has resulted in school closures, self-quarantining, and social distancing, we would like to find a way for our community to unite and show community spirit.
My name is Charlie Konashevsky. What does it mean to make an impact? Well, it depends on what impact you're trying to make. The impact that the Wiley crew is trying to make could eventually grow. It might start out as an impact for our community, then move on to our state, to our country, and on and on and on. The impact would be social because it would help people realize that other people care. We believe that everyone will learn from this impact. We want people to be aware that they are not alone.
Thank you. Is Aaron there also?
Hi, this is Deb Eber, and I'm Erin's teacher, and I'm confused as to why she's not here. She's probably having
I'm
some-
here. Sorry, I was
Okay.
muted and I couldn't unmute myself.
Okay.
Okay, sorry. I will continue now.
Okay.
My name is Aaron Neiman. We would like to start a movement called the Community Tree Project to show love and support for each other as well as the environment during the coronavirus outbreak. Since Dexter students are not able to physically participate in community events at this time, we are asking the Dexter City Council to adopt a resolution to encourage community members to make an impact by tying a ribbon around a tree to show support and unity during the time of social distancing and uncertainty. We did a survey, and over 90% of the students that responded said that this would be a great idea. We are recommending the following rules for the Community Tree Project.
If you don't have a ribbon, you can get creative.
The ribbon should not harm any animals or plants.
Community members are responsible for taking the ribbon down and disposing of it properly.
The ribbon will be taken down by Friday, June 12th, the last day of school.
Thank you.
Considering
our project.
Well, thank you all for joining us today and for coming up with such a wonderful idea. As you know, a little bit later on our agenda, we prepared a resolution under new business item L1 that I anticipate we will pass when we get to that part of the meeting. I'd like to say thank you to all the students that are listening, as well as to Deborah Eber, Susan Karsh, Natalie Hanlon, Jeff Dagg, and Katie C., all who contacted the city about this idea. And I think it's really wonderful that our students at this time are helping us remember the important things in life. And anyway, I look forward to getting to that approval later on in the agenda. Thank you for participating tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there other members of the community that would like to speak this evening on any topic?
Should I unmute everyone, Sean?
Yeah, why don't you, Justin? Or they, if they know how to, we should probably educate them that they can raise their hand if they have their participant window open. On the lower right corner of your participant window, there's a little raise hand button. If you know you want to speak, please raise your hand. Otherwise, we can unmute and take people that aren't as familiar with Zoom.
I'm not seeing any hands. So I will hit unmute all.
Yeah, 3 hands.
I got 3 hands now, Justin, at the top. So I'm gonna recognize Bethany Young first, please.
Hi there, everybody. Can you hear me?
Hi, Bethany Young. Yeah, if you could state your address, please, would appreciate it.
Absolutely. My name is Bethany Young. I live here in Ann Arbor at 201 West William Street, apartment 1, Ann Arbor, as I said, 48104.
Thank you.
I guess I'm gonna just to speak, and it'll give you an idea of, I'm here speaking on behalf of Avalon Housing and for the housing property that's been considered in Dexter.
Okay.
So my name is Bethany Young, and I'm a long-term tenant of and now also an employee of Avalon Housing, presently working as a peer support. A peer support is someone who has lived experience in substance use and/or mental health, and I'm a part of Avalon Housing Support Services. However, I'm here tonight as an example of a person who receives supportive housing services through Avalon Housing. I have shared some of my story here in Dexter. I don't know if anybody's familiar with me, but in any case, I want to summarize. I came here to Michigan in 2004, and I lived here or there in Dexter after I finished substance use treatment. I was able to find a rental for myself and my 2 sons in Dexter. Excuse me, my sons then attended schools here, including Wiley and Mill Creek, and we loved it there. We felt very welcomed, and actually we really welcomed the stability and the environment Dexter offered for us too. It was really helpful for my sons and of course for me. Unfortunately, we were struggling to afford the cost of living. I, in connection with some other local resource agencies, was connected to Avalon Housing, and we were then lucky enough to get a voucher for supportive housing where I live now here in Ann Arbor. I didn't want to move my sons again at the time, but in the end, it was the right solution for us then. At that time, I went on, I was sober. We were doing well in Ann Arbor. I was a New Mexico licensed nurse when I arrived here. Over the next 10, 12 years, I became a licensed registered nurse here in Michigan. Avalon Housing helped with many things that I still had challenges with though, and I accepted some, like use of the food pantry was one thing that was very helpful. After school children's support programs and summer camp arranging, things mostly with my kids. But I still had a sense of shame of not being able to do more myself. So I didn't avail myself of a lot of the offered support coordination, like a social worker or case manager. So over time, it was harder when I also went on to deal with a series of unforeseen health and financial challenges. I did relapse. I have a alcohol history, abuse history, and I got a DUI. So the point is, I just want to say I'm not a perfect story. But most importantly, today I'm in recovery. I finally accepted more of the support services that can come through Avalon, that they help coordinate. And for me, they helped me coordinate my recovery. And about 2.5 years ago, and in sobriety, I applied for and started working with Avalon Housing, as I had stated. And I really feel good about the work I do. So I just want to say I truly wouldn't be here if they hadn't stuck with me. They knew I wanted to live differently, and they were willing to go the extra mile. And so that's just something I wanted to add to speak towards the project that they're doing in Dexter as a present tenant and employee. So thank you for your time.
Thank you for your comments, Bethany.
Thank you.
Next on the list is Sherry Montoya.
Hi, I'm Sherry Montoy with Faith in Action, and we just wanted to thank you for your support. I know this approval of the site plan is on your agenda today. Faith in Action and Avalon have been working together on this project now for a couple years, really, and our work here in Chelsea, especially during this crisis, has shown that this is a really important work that we do to provide supportive housing, even in the best of times. And in this time period that we've all been going through, it was seamless. The families who live there were able to just, they knew where to go for support. There has not been any change in anybody's status. We've been able to all communicate and work seamlessly. And so it really speaks to the really important work of this project. And, the two nonprofits together put in thousands and thousands of hours on this project. And so we appreciate all of the work that you've done. You've also put in just countless hours on this. We appreciate that. And I think in the end, countless lives will be positively impacted because of this work. And so we appreciate all of that. And we appreciate every step of the way that this has, all the work everybody's done on this project.
Thank you, Sherry. The next hand I see is our friend James McCarter, our Hudson Street resident.
Thanks very much, Sean. I'm speaking tonight as a Dexter homeowner. First off, thank you all for doing what you're doing in this very hard time. Can you raise your hand, please, if you can hear me okay? I just want to get an idea. Council members in particular. Got it. Thank you.
Yep, all good. All good, Joe.
Thanks very much. Good job, Sean. I'm speaking as a Dexter homeowner of 26 years. My kids went K-12 through Dexter schools. As many of you know, I'm also a veteran DCS teacher. I taught 2nd grade and 6th grade. I was also a trained district first responder for many years. On the day of the Dexter tornado, I was in Huron Farms, and I can tell you that at that time, I either had a current student or an alum in about 1 out of every 5 houses in that subdivision, and that was representative. As a teacher, I want to say something that may be obvious, but we don't think about too much, and that is that homeless children do not come into school wearing sweatshirts proclaiming their homelessness. Their fragile housing or their food history, their parents who need support, but the teachers and the staff knew. Principals knew. And we acted whenever we possibly could out of compassion and love to support these children, many times going well beyond going into, I know principals who went into their own resources, well into their own times to support homeless children, children who were in fragile situations. I became aware of the Avalon issue through this flyer that came to me anonymously, no names on it, back in January. And since then, I've been reviewing your packets in detail. I've been attending as often as possible. And for the other citizens on the call, and particularly for the students who are on the call, I'd like you to know that this person, this individual citizen, views the actions and the behavior of this council as being extremely responsible. Throughout my time looking at this, and prior as a citizen or a teacher, I would have supported you, the council, in what you have done so far with Avalon Housing without hesitation. And I encourage you to act on it tonight favorably. Now, at the same time, what I'd like to do is mention for a minute that I believe when I come on here as a citizen and I move into the public square to speak for myself, let alone if I'm advocating for a position before you or anybody else, that there is a citizen's social contract. This isn't something that's law. This is just a covenant that includes a number of I wills. It includes, I will be honest, I will be caring, I will be compassionate, I will respect the dignity of every human being. I note, by the way, the strong overlap between what I just said and the letter of support from St. James Episcopal that is in your packet. They're just 2 blocks up from me here. Now, I want to talk briefly about the Dexter Citizens for Responsible Government, and I'm going to be blunt. Dexter Citizens for Responsible Government, and if any of you are on here, I speak to you directly. You have repeatedly demonstrated outright irresponsible choices relative to that social contract that I just mentioned a few minutes ago. It starts with the name, Dexter Citizens for Responsible Government. This is absurd. No reasonable citizen opposes responsible government. What your group name does is it sets up two clear, implicit we versus they boundaries. One is that the council itself has not held itself to a high standard of responsible government. The second one is that anyone who opposes a stance taken by CRG supports your irresponsibility. And that's absurd. When I first learned this, I looked at this flyer. I tried to find out who was behind it. There was no name. And I didn't need my U of M master's work in statistics to recognize selective use of figures and outright propaganda to promote an agenda. I went to the contact page, the website page that was listed there. There was, for example, a letter to the editor's page. It said letters to the editor. You can see it today. I checked it. Still the same. 10 letters opposing Avalon, each one authored by, quote, a Dexter resident. Now, if you do the digging on the quotes and those actual letters, 8 of those 10 were written by either Jamie Griffith or Sue Sherrill. That's not on there. That's not a Dexter resident, 10 different ones. It's 2 people claiming that their letters represent the broader community on their page. That is incredibly misleading and incredibly irresponsible. Their Facebook page links to a Sun-Times news site with another letter, also Jamie Griffith, an interview, also with Jamie Griffith. Neither the Facebook page nor the website includes officers, named contacts. All of the contact information is a post office box, an anonymous email, and the Facebook link. I had to dig like crazy to figure out even just a couple of names that are really behind a lot of this. Now I learn about the petition for the revision to our council charter. So I guess I want to close this out by flipping over to the Facebook page for Avalon Housing. If you go to Avalon Housing, you get a picture of a team of people, a very large number of people. You get pictures and names of 9 board members with titles. You get links to partner organizations that reads like the VIP list of nonprofit, highly touted organizations in our county, not just Faith in Action, but also Food Gatherers and many others. That contrast to me is the contrast between being irresponsible and being responsible. I noted in the packet that there's a bunch of information about the Fair Housing Act, and I'm glad that that's in there. It's a huge reminder to me that when we act in the context of fear that leads us to prejudice based on groups that are disadvantaged, particularly including people who are low income, particularly people who need supportive, quality services in order to get into the mainstream of being productive citizens in our community. We need to support that. We need to support it strongly. Last thing I want to say is it takes more than just a village to raise children. I know that book and that phrase is out there, but sometimes it takes a county. We have a homelessness problem that goes well beyond the county, beyond Dexter. It goes into the county, and sometimes it takes a state to raise children and raise families. So I appreciate the time. I encourage you to support the proposals that are on the agenda for you tonight related to Avalon. And I will say that at any point, even when I was across the street at Recess, at Cornerstone, when it first opened, when my son first went there, I would have supported this project. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments this evening, Jim. I thought there was one other hand, but maybe I'm mistaken. Justin, are we clear of raised hands at this point?
Cole had his hand up, but I was able to clear his question
There we
up.
go. Yeah, Cole, do you still? Oh, he was? Cole does not want to speak?
Thanks for catching that, Sean. I just had a question for Justin about recording the meeting, but we're all set.
Okay, very good. You're welcome anytime. Why don't you give us your address? Just
Oh yeah, so Cole Miller, 76544 Forest Street. Thanks for doing the meetings. Thanks for keeping this going. And you know, I can only imagine what Justin's workload is at this point, and I would give all the city employees a round of applause daily if I could.
They certainly deserve it. Well said, Cole.
Thank you.
Okay. Justin, I'm not seeing any other raised hands, so if you don't see any, I'm gonna move on.
I don't either. I did unmute two people who have called in case they wanted to speak, but other than that, I don't see any hands.
Okay. So we think we got everybody?
That's what it looks like.
Yeah, okay. Thank you for your patience, everybody else, as we went through to make sure. I'll move on to item H. There's two communications in the packet. The upcoming meeting list and the letter that Mr. McCarter mentioned from St. James Episcopal Church supporting the project. Does anybody have any comments on the two communications or questions? Okay, seeing none, we'll move to our first report from our treasurer / assessor / finance director, Marie Sherry. Marie, how are you?
I'm good, Counselor. Good, Sean. How are you?
Very good, thank you.
Good to see everybody sort of in real life. And if you hear chewing behind you, I've bribed my dogs with chew sticks so they won't bark while I'm talking. You have my report in front of you. I wanted to just kind of touch base on the COVID pandemic and what's happening out there with possible reimbursements and that sort of thing. I looked today to see if there was any updates. It's kind of fluid on how all this is going. But the latest update I heard is what they're trying to do is they're trying to get Congress to take the monies that have already been approved, not for communities that are over 500, but the rest of it, and make it so that they can backfill lost revenue. So that's kind of an angle in my report. You know, I talked about we're gonna see less revenue sharing. So that's kind of something that is in the works in the various lobbying and legislative areas to try to be able to allow them to backfill state revenue. Our next state revenue sharing check will be at the full amount. It's the one after that that we'll start seeing the effect of people not shopping and people not spending money. Is there any questions in that area?
Do we receive those quarterly, Marie?
Every other month.
Every other month, okay. 6 times, okay, thank you.
On the Board of Review, just wanted to touch base briefly on that. I do expect probably 4 may go to tribunal. I know for sure 1 has, and that's one that goes to tribunal every year. We may have 2 residential and another business that will go to tribunal. We'll find out, you know, when those filing deadlines happen. All of those petitioners actually got rulings in their favor, but I don't know if they necessarily got rulings in their favor enough. So just kind of a heads up on that. I don't really have any other updates unless you have any questions for me.
Council, do you have questions on Marie's third quarter report?
Nothing here.
Thanks, Julie. Okay, looks like you're doing a great job. Nobody has any questions on money. So
Yay. Well, hopefully soon we'll see each other in real life. That would be nice.
yeah, I'm not sure. You are the GFOA award was mentioned at the last meeting or the previous one, and I'm not sure you were on, but congratulations was issued. So thank you in
Oh, thank
person
you.
for everything you're doing there to continue to bring that home for us. Thanks.
And the funny thing is we're already starting to work on spreadsheets for the
Gotcha.
upcoming one.
Gotcha. Good deal. Okay, let's see. Up next is our Public Services Superintendent. Dan, welcome.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Good evening. In your packet, I provided a 2-week report. I had a couple meetings late last week that I didn't get in my report, and I'd like to start with that. The first meeting I had was in the industrial park. We have a storm ditch that runs from the side of NEPCO down to our big retention pond. It's been overgrown for a number of years, so we noticed that when we did our SAW grant that there was a little bit of water being held up because of the being so overgrown. So we're looking at different options. I'm working with OHM. Maybe it's nothing we're going to do maybe this year, but in the future, I'm also talking to Courtney about it. So that'll be something that we'll bring to you at a later date on how we're going to go about removing some of the trees and doing some of the stuff there. And then also I had a meeting with Tom and Jim from OHM on the Central Street project. I didn't make it for the whole walkthrough, for I made about half of it, but we put a punch list together. The contractor's supposed to be back this Wednesday to start doing some restoration work on that project. Obviously down at 5th and Broad, they haven't even got topsoil or seed in there. And also we walked Central Street and we looked at different areas where I think that they need to add topsoil and a little more seed to make it look a little bit better. They're hoping to be here Wednesday for that, but looking at the weather, I don't know if that's gonna work for them. So they're looking for an alternate day of maybe Friday now.
I think they said Monday in an email you probably haven't seen yet. But,
Okay.
so their rain day right now is Monday.
Okay. So that's the meetings I had later in the week. I couldn't get into my report. Is there any questions on my report?
Hey, Dan, I'm going to ask you to help me here. Maybe it's Courtney that can help a little bit, but just I wanted the council to know and the community to know that on the PATH project, sort of unrelated to the PATH project, there was a tree that fell in the vicinity of the path and knocked down some communication wire that leads towards the Creekside project. Can you just fill in how we've tried to step up a little bit and help get the branches away and some of the things that we've done? I know we're going to be working through with the schools to try and help them get that repaired, but can you just share what you have observed and done? And I'd like to give a shout out to Gino for coming in and helping.
Well, we got the call from the schools that the tree had fallen, and the tree was outside the easement area, but it had fallen onto a communication pole that was inside the easement area. And obviously communication fiber connection is important to the schools right now. So we had our arborist, Arbor Landscaping, come out on an emergency, and technically they weren't working, but because this was for a government and a school, he actually just came out himself and cut the most immediate need which was the tree, the branch that was actually causing the wire to be sort of unstable. And he has since been back twice, actually. He was out today kind of doing final cleanup of some brush in that area. And then we've been working with the fiber company on figuring out a solution to put up the new pole, the replacement pole. So the Mill Creek Park Path Plan, or the Mill Creek Path Plan, called for putting up another pole about 20 feet away from the existing one. And so now what we're going to do is just put up one as a replacement. So that's kind of the plan now. So we're looking at, there was a cost that would have been incurred for that pole falling if it had fallen 6 months ago and had nothing to do with the path. And then there's a little bit of an incremental cost because we'd like it to go into a certain location. So we're going to work with the schools to figure that cost sharing out.
Thanks, Courtney. Appreciate that. I see Scott Bell has his hand up. Scott, you have a question?
Yeah, just a couple of questions for Dan on the two Westridge items. The sinkhole, where's that and what's the issue?
I was notified by a resident, and I cannot remember the name of the road. It's a cul-de-sac when you first go in.
I think it was Bridgeway.
Pardon me?
Is it over on
Was it
Bridgeway?
Bridgeway. I was notified that there was a sinkhole, and I went back there with a couple other guys, and we looked at it, and it looks to me that it's an old cistern. There used to be an old home there many, many years ago. So what I done, I called the realty sign out front, and they were going to get in contact with somebody. This was last week. I haven't followed up on it. They were going to get in contact with somebody to come fill that in. So what we did is we mounted posts all the way around it and put our orange fence around it to secure it until they could get a contractor out there to fill that back in.
Okay. Gotcha.
It was approximately 6 feet wide, 3 feet deep.
Okay. So enough to cause harm to a pedestrian, but not a Fraser sinkhole size.
No, it was nothing like that. And there's just a lot of kids home right now. You know,
Yeah.
That's what he noticed. He noticed there was kids out there and walked out there, and that's how then he gave us a call. So I think we've got it secured as good as it needs to be. Until
And
we can
then,
get back in.
and you had a bullet item that referenced a waste management mess. What was that?
Yeah, we've had a little bit of windy weather, and when they're dumping things, it's kind of flying all over the place. I know we contacted Waste Management. We're trying to work through that with them, trying to figure out what we can do a little different.
Is that
And a lot
resident
of- and
complaints?
A lot of times the garbage cans are so full too, the lids aren't closed on them. So
And part of it too was some like leakage from the truck potentially. So it was a resident complaint. You know, people are home and they saw that occur, and so they did clean it up. And then since subsequent to that, last week I believe they street swept in Westridge as well. So, you know, hopefully they're not like massive piles, but it's enough to be kind of frustrating.
Okay. All right,
And
thank you.
one of the things that I have noticed is with these cans is it's definitely cleaner. You know, there's not as much stuff blowing out of the old recycling cans. So the process, I think, is cleaner. But we've had some little things that we've got to work through.
Well, I think it's part of Murphy's Law that says the windiest days are going to happen on trash days.
Oh, absolutely, every week.
Exactly.
Yeah. Thank you, Dan. Thanks, Courtney.
Yep.
Dan, are you done with your report?
I am, if nobody has any more questions.
I'm not seeing any. Okay, we will move on to our Community Development Manager report. Good evening, Michelle. How are you?
I'm fine. Thank you, Sean. And good evening, Council. How are
Hi,
you?
Michelle. Good.
Thank you.
Sounds good. All right. I'm glad you're all doing well. You have my 2-week report in front of you, but before I go into updates, do you have any questions for me? Okay. So I provided you with another update from the Michigan Research and Seminar in Quantitative Economics. They're putting them out, looks like they're putting it out monthly. And although some of the information may not be the most uplifting, so to speak, it does give us an idea of what's going on, and will help us as we go forward, navigating our way through this unprecedented situation. I'm working on a survey of the businesses to find out what are the things that they may need assistance with going forward. The DDA asked that the survey be created, not so much that the city can fill in for the financial needs that they have, but the data and the information that we get back may be helpful as we go forward in helping businesses. So that I'm working on. I had hoped to get it out I have something drafted by last week, but you know what they say about the best laid plans, mice and women. So there's 3 updates for you. Grandview Commons will be coming in, Broward will be coming in for an amendment to their final site plan. And the reason for that is they contacted me last week about a 4th amendment to their condo docs. And what that amendment involved was showing balconies or decks, if you will, off the back side of the townhouses. So when I went back and looked at the approved final site plan, there are no decks or balconies. And as such, before I could administratively approve this as a minor amendment on the condo docs, they have to go through the amendment process for the final site plan. And it will fall under minor amendment, provided they can demonstrate that it doesn't add more than 5% to each structure. And they've excuse me, they have indicated that they can demonstrate that. So I should be getting that on Wednesday, and I'll keep you up to date on it. I reached out to DTE last week or the week before regarding the duplicate poles on Grand Street. You know that they cut off some of the existing ones, put new ones up so that they could get the improvements that they needed to complete or in order to deconstruct or decommission the Broad Street substation. But the other communications companies, the fibers, the phones, they haven't completed their transfer of their lines to the new poles yet. That will be happening just as soon as the lockdown is lifted for them to be able to do it. So it is coming, and your patience is requested. Excuse me, I'm so sorry. Dexter Bakery opened up on Sunday. How many people went?
Hey.
Yeah. I hope somebody ate an apple fritter for me. I understand that it was pretty busy. I've spoken to texted with the business owner today, and she said the amount of people coming through yesterday as well as today has been amazing. And it just warmed her heart, she said, to know that the business was missed that much and appreciated by the community. Dairy Queen is opening up on Friday, folks. So they will also be working hard to keep social distancing in the outside, but they're going to be doing curbside ordering and pickup. So you won't be calling ahead to make your order. When you get to the parking lot and you park your vehicle, they'll make your call then, and they will deliver your food to you or your order to you. That's what I have so far. Does anybody have any questions for me? If not, enjoy your donuts and your ice cream, folks.
Michelle,
Yes, sir.
Approximately how many of the units at 150 are occupied, do you know?
Let's see. If I had to make a guess, I'd say about a half a dozen.
Gotcha. I spotted one of the newest members of the Shepherd community waving to me from her balcony.
Yes, yes.
Julie Knight enjoyed a nice morning out there. Actually, it was a brisk morning. I almost fell on a sheet of ice watching her. But oh, glad that transition worked out for you, Julie.
Thank you. Thank you. It worked out quite well.
Does anybody have questions for Michelle? I'm not seeing any hands. Oh, Jim Smith, please.
Michelle, do you want to give us any more updates on the Encore?
Other than what's in my report, let's see. I don't have anything else. I did receive the review letters from the consultants, the city attorney, and there was no update from the fire department. So Those have been provided to the applicant. I have not heard anything from them.
Thank you.
Okay, so we don't know when they're going back to planning commission then?
Planning Commission postponed them to May. So as far as us going forward now, they're going in front of Planning Commission next week, Monday.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
Thank you for clarifying. Thank you. Okay, I don't see any other questions for Michelle. If we, somebody thinks of something, we can come back if we have to.
Oh, I'm sorry. I did forget one thing, Sean.
Okay, go ahead. Floor is still yours.
Thank you. I did receive a call from Jim Harless this morning. You'll recall he's the environmental consultant for the Norfolk team. And he was telling me that there may be a chance, it might be a slim one, but there may be a way to utilize an existing program through the state to help move our project forward and be able to be, what's the word he used? Eligible for those non-environmental costs that are currently the holdup for the project. The things that like being able to do the underground parking, et cetera. So I'm waiting for a call from all people, Jim Tischler. So as soon as I hear from him, if this really does turn out to be something that it makes sense for the city, I'm certainly going to pass it on to you and update you accordingly. So I've got my fingers crossed right now.
Okay. Any questions on that? Okay, thank you for keeping us up to date on that. Next up on the agenda is our city manager report. Ms. Nichols, how are you?
Good, thank you. How are you?
Good.
I don't have too many updates. Some of you may have seen in the last email update that we had included a link for people that want to be put on the permanent absentee voter list. We did get about 36 replies to that, which was good. So we're adding people to that, and that means that you'll get the application for the election automatically. You just have to return it. We have gotten a lot of applications back for the May election, which we can actually use for August, so that will save us some postage and some time. Ballots, that is our next election, is August 4th. We anticipate that the vast majority of that will be done by absentee. So we'd like people to get their requests in so that we can kind of do a big mass mailing all at one time instead of kind of every day more and more. Those ballots won't be available, will be mailed out mid-June. So hopefully everyone's gotten the message that the polls won't be open in May, but you know, the signage won't be out. It should be pretty obvious. And we have included that in various updates. I did put in my report that Grand Street's now scheduled, the Grand Hudson project is now scheduled to start in mid-May. Due to the closure of the schools, there's no reason to wait for school to get out. So the contractor has a pretty aggressive schedule that would have him finishing at the end of July. So that will be good. We're following up with the residents on their water service lines because we had sent the letter asking to be let in to inspect them like right when the pandemic hit. So clearly people aren't going to be comfortable with that. So we have a magnet trick we sent out today in an email to try to decide or try to figure out which service lines aren't copper. So we did get our first response today, which was cool. He sent a photo and the magnet and everything. So I'm hoping we get a bunch of responses on that. I've not heard about anything from LJ for the path or Doan to finish up the restoration from the Forest Street sidewalk and the rapid flashing beacons, but hopefully we hear something about that this week. I wanted to ask about the ballot language for the August election for the fire station. Right now, if you read it, it says that the earliest we could collect the millage would be 2020. Which doesn't really make sense anymore because it's not going to be collectible in 2020. So I didn't know if council would be willing to change that to 2021. We could have that as an agenda item on the 11th, but it just didn't really make sense to keep it 2020 since we have the time to change it to 2021. And I'd also like to refer to the sheriff's department as the sheriff's office because that is their technical, how they're supposed to be referred to. So unless council objects, I'd like to ask for those two changes since we do have time to change the language before the May 12th deadline.
So that'll be on the next agenda then is what you've got there, right?
Yeah, for May, yeah, because that's the last chance. The ballot language is due May 12th.
Okay.
And then I wanted Justin to provide an update. He had heard back from the Attorney General for the charter amendment, so I just wanted him to provide a quick update on that.
Yeah, so we, like Courtney said, we got a email back from the Attorney General's office indicating that both they and the governor's office had received the letters that I sent them about the citizen-initiated charter amendment, and they requested copies of the front and back of one of the petition forms, and they're going to be in contact with Scott, who is assisting us in this in moving through this process. But the deadline to certify that language to the county again is May 12th. So they're going to have to move pretty quick here to review that language. And that's all I got for you.
Okay. Courtney, floor is still yours.
Yep, I think the only other thing was just the comment in here about the TEDF funding. The original deadline for that was May 1st. They've just extended that today to June 1st. But we would like to submit a project for Broad Street. This is a funding source we've received before, so I don't know what our chances would be, but I thought OHM made a good point that in the past, a lot of the stimulus money that has come through for infrastructure goes through existing programs. So I don't think it's a bad idea to kind of have programs in the various queues just in case something, bless you, comes up.
Thank you.
So we will plan to submit that for the remainder of Broad Street. And we can discuss that more Wednesday at the budget session as well.
I think it's a good idea that you're able to fill that out. Thanks for the extra effort it takes to do that.
Yeah, no problem.
I see Jim Smith has his hand up, so why don't I call on Jim, Courtney, now, and we can see where that goes.
Yeah, Courtney, I had a question about on the absentee ballots. People who voted in the March primary, are they automatically on the list for
So if you
absentee ballots?
Yeah, so if you voted in the March primary and you checked both boxes on that application for March and November, then yes, you won't get another application for November. You'll be all set. So the people on the permanent list, it becomes a little bit more complicated just because we have, May applications that are good for August and we have March applications that are good for November. But so people that did submit them won't have to resubmit for November.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions for Courtney?
Looks like Paul's got his hand up.
His
Oh.
literal.
Oh,
Not for
literally.
Courtney.
I can't see that. Okay.
No,
Go ahead, Paul.
not for Courtney, but I do have some comment that went over pretty quickly there from the chamber that I'd like to just let you know about when Courtney's done. So I'll go back, we have to go back to 4 just so I can give you some updates on some activities, okay?
Absolutely. Sorry for passing over that quickly.
No problem at all. So when Courtney's done, let me know and I'll jump in.
Okay. I don't see any other blue hands or people waving hands. Courtney, I guess you're got off the hook easy tonight.
Yeah. Thanks.
Paul, back to you.
All right. Thanks, Sean. There was a meeting this morning of the chamber, and I would let you know that the decision has been made to not make a decision to cancel the concert series yet until we hear from the governor on the 18th. On the 15th. We have another meeting then on the 18th, which we will then make a determination as it relates to that, okay? That's the first thing, okay? So the concert series first event, which was with the with the Dexter Symphony has been canceled by their request, okay? So we'll be starting with the second event. Those events haven't even been placed on a flyer or a poster yet because they didn't want to put that expense out without knowing that that was going to go forward, okay? Chris Jones and his Dexter Creamery have been this main sponsor. They didn't want to have any extra burden of expenses with them at that point in time. The second thing that I would like to mention is the ribbons. The chamber had a discussion a month before that about ribbons around the trees. And so I would like to support the concept that the young people have talked about. There was a question of whether they were going to be white ribbons or blue ribbons, but the chamber would definitely be involved in that process if they would like us to be involved in that. Since we are in town, we have businesses that are related to those types of things. So just let us know what we can do as a chamber. I'm sorry I missed the teacher's name, but you can contact me through the city offices there and let me know what we can do, or you can talk to the chamber president, Karen Maddox there, either one. The third thing is that there has not been a decision yet on Dexter Days as we know it. You know, Dexter Days has not formally departed from being a part of the chamber. That has not been legally done yet. They have not applied for, as I checked with Courtney today, they have not applied for a application for Dexter Days yet, either for the liquor license or through the insurance or even for street closings. So no formal application yet. That may happen. I know that when I've been in a beer tent, I've never been within 6 feet of anybody. So that will have to all be worked out sometime, if in fact that would even be potentially allowed. You should know that Chelsea has canceled their sounds and sights on Thursday nights completely, and there's none of those activities going along, including their big fundraiser that they have, which is a large tent behind the Common Grill there in the parking lot there. So we're still up in the air on a number of those things, but we will let you know as quickly as possible on the 18th of the decision that will be made from the chamber. I'll try to answer any questions if anybody has any.
Thanks, Paul. Appreciate the updates on those.
You're welcome.
I assume that if the concert series does go forward, they're still gonna have some guidelines in place for some type of separation. The sound travels quite far, so we might have to have people sitting in places that they're not usually sitting.
You're right, and we'll do the appropriate things if necessary, Sean. Absolutely.
Gotcha. Okay. Appreciate you keeping us informed of that.
Doing my best.
Does anybody have any questions for Paul? I don't see any blue hands. And no more for Courtney. I'll bounce down to my report. Wanted to make you aware that both the DDA and DAFD held their first virtual Zoom meeting. These both occurred back on the 16th of April, so 11 days ago. The DDA board meeting went smoothly, was pretty well attended. We had people participating via Zoom from as far away as Florida. So a benefit of these virtual meetings allows people to participate even when they're out of town. The DDA saw its first draft of a budget for the next fiscal year, and it was well put together by Marie and our treasurer, Mike Fitzpatrick. We anticipate that we'll be approving that budget at our May meeting in advance of the end of this fiscal year. At the DAFD meeting, we held a little practice meeting similar to what council did first, and then we had our actual meeting on the evening of the 16th. The meeting went pretty smoothly. We received a very detailed report from our fire chief related to all the activities and the precautions, the protocols, the concerns, the cleaning, the safety masks, and many, many other topics related to what they're going through, or what our first responders are going through in dealing with, you know, the possibility that they may come in contact with someone with the virus. You know, that's the uncertainty is the hardest part, I think. But the chief and his team are well prepared, and we successfully completed our first Zoom meeting. I should also point out, and I don't know if I mentioned this at the last meeting, but we have a new chair of the DAFD. Harley asked not to be chair at the February meeting. And in the interim between February and now, well, at the February meeting, we appointed Jim Smith to be our new chair. So
Jim Sita.
Jim Sita, thank you, Jim Sita to be our new chair. And anyway, Jim ran the first Zoom meeting in DAFD history this past week. So anyway, both of those are moving forward. I want to remind council that this Wednesday, we have our first budget review workshop. It's another meeting like this on Zoom. Staff has worked very hard to put together the first draft of that. That's also available online if you need to find it. If any of the 48 or so people that are listening here are interested in seeing it online. Anyway, just a reminder that that's on Wednesday. I did spend a little bit of time after our last meeting talking with Chris Knight of UIS related to the site plan approval topic that we postponed at the last meeting that they requested to be postponed. And I'll be happy to elaborate a little bit more on that when it gets to that item under old business. But just wanted to make everyone aware that I did spend some time with our attorney as well as their attorneys and Michelle working through that issue. Does anybody have any questions for me on things? Okay. Let me just get back to looking at the agenda then.
Looks like Donna has her hand up.
Oh, I see. Okay, Donna, please.
I move we approve the 4 items listed on the consent agenda. Bills and payroll in the amount of $370,242.45. The setting a public hearing for the sale of property between DTE, Avalon, and the city. The third quarter budget amendments and the Trout Unlimited planting plan.
Okay, motion by Ms. Fisher. Thank you. Mr. Smith, you have your hand up?
Yep, I'll second.
Okay, second by Mr. Smith. Thank you. Justin, if you could call the roll to approve the 4 items on the consent agenda.
Sure
Please.
thing. Councilmember Cousins,
Yes.
Councilmember Fisher,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Bell,
Yes.
Michelle's,
Yes.
Knight,
Yes.
Mayor Keough.
Yes. Motion carries. Thank you very much. Moving down to item K1, old business. This is a recommendation from Planning Commission to approve the final combined site plan for UIS. And we're also asking that council consider approving the agreement that was listed as a draft in the packet, and the more recent version of which was shared on, I believe, Friday of last week.
Do we need separate motions for those 2 items?
Yeah, I think we do, Scott. I think we do. I see Jim's got his hand up.
Sorry, do you want Jim to make his motion first? But I think that that's actually a condition of approval that we finalize it. So I think by virtue of adopting the motion, you guys are saying you're comfortable entering into it.
So it would be implicit.
Because it's number 10 on the condition list.
Okay, you want to do it at one? Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough. I read that.
It gives us the chance to just make the final dot the i's, cross the t's.
Right.
Changes.
That makes sense.
Okay.
And as always, if there was anything of substantive nature in a change, it would come back in front of you.
Okay, Jim, thanks for waiting patiently.
Sure. I'll make the motion to approve the, well, I'll make the motion that's on page 83 and ends on page 84. I won't read through all the conditions, but approve the recommendation of the Planning Commission and information provided by the applicant, staff, Carlisle, Wortman, OHM, DAFD, and reflected in the minutes of this meeting. The City Council moves to approve the UIS combined preliminary and final site plan revision dated March 11th, 2020, and architecture elevation sheets A101, A200, and A201, revision dated March 30th, 2020, in accordance with the requirements of Article 21 of the zoning ordinance, subject to the following conditions. And there's the 10 conditions listed.
Okay, thank you, Jim. Motion by Smith. Ms. Fisher, you have your hand up?
Yes, I'll second the motion.
Second by Ms. Fisher. Thank you both. Okay, Michelle, I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, so as Sean indicated at the beginning of this item, this was postponed at the request of the applicant. And over the course of the last 2 weeks, we have worked with the applicant and his counsel to, excuse me, to come up with a roadmap, if you will, i.e. an agreement for moving forward with this particular project, the elimination and or partial releases of the different easements, and making sure at the same time the city agrees to assist wherever it can, but not be held harmless, because there are things related to this that require a third-party decision-making or agreement, and we can't be held responsible if those third parties don't come to the table the way everyone needs them to, and to make sure that the city's fees are covered as it pertains to our consultant costs to help the applicant. The applicant side was extremely helpful. I have to give kudos to Courtney and or Justin. They were able to find in the dungeon a file that provided me the opportunity to develop a timeline, so to speak, a history of how everything came to this point. And it started way back in 1999. So it's not an easy process, and it certainly isn't going to take another 10 years to complete. Please be assured of that. Excuse me. I have received email confirmation from the various utilities that they are willing to support releases of easements or complete termination of them. That information has been provided to the applicant and his counsel. So I really am very comfortable with a motion to approve subject to the conditions that are outlined. The applicant has also indicated that they are supportive as well. If you've got any questions for me, I'm happy to answer them. But that's all I have for right now.
So, council, I want to just elaborate a little bit. The element of time is very important to Chris Knight and UIS relative to the project goals. And given our knowledge that there's an easement in the way, so to speak, there's at least either one easement or there's two, depending on whether the current consent judgment's valid or not. Normally we would not grant anybody preliminary zoning compliance to get started knowing that there was a problem. And the need for the agreement is basically to protect the city we sort of have a friendly customer service type attitude when it comes to helping our businesses here. But, you know, the risk is all on them should they want to get started while the process of extinguishing the easement is taking place. As we looked back at that file that Michelle mentioned, the city tried to extinguish this easement and get a revised plat recorded back in 2005, I think it was. And after a couple of years worth of trying, the state of Michigan didn't allow it to happen because at that time, DTE wouldn't give a partial release of a portion of the easement that was needed to extinguish it. So the discussion that I had with the owner, Chris Knight, with the help of Michelle and our attorney, Steve Esty, and their attorneys, was related to, since the village was the plaintiff on the last attempt to go through the court and get the easements extinguished, we've sort of agreed to partner and help them reopen that case, if you will. They're going to do all the work. Our attorneys will review, you know, any documents for filing documents, that type of thing. They're going to cover the cost of our attorneys to help with that. We're not really, we're not taking on any risk or cost other than the time it might take to administrate, making sure the agreement goes forward the way it's intended. Michelle has already done a lot by contacting the three primary utilities, DTE, AT&T, and ITC, I think was the third one you told me, Michelle.
Yes.
And anyway, her contacts and efforts already are good, should help this process go forward. I don't think, anyway, I just wanted you to know more about the interaction that I had over the past couple of weeks in this. And I think we're at a better place because at the end of the day, we had two businesses 12 years ago or 15 years ago that paid our cost to try and help get that plat re-recorded and that extinguished, and it didn't happen. So even though we're offering to help UIS go forward in this, you know, we still need the cooperation and the formal agreement by the court, and thus the agreement protects us in case something unforeseen happens. That's the purpose of the agreement as part of the condition. And UIS is very supportive of it. So if anybody has any questions for me on that, I'd be happy to try and help. I hope I didn't confuse anything in what I said. Okay, is there any discussion then on the motion and the second? I'm not seeing any. Justin, are you seeing any?
I am not seeing any.
Okay. All right. Then I'm going to ask you to call the vote to approve the recommendation from Planning Commission.
All right. Councilmember Michelle's?
Yes.
Knight?
Yes.
Bell?
Yes.
Fisher?
Yes.
Cousins?
Yes.
Smith?
Yes.
Mayor Keough?
Yes. Motion carries. Thank you all. And
Thank you.
Michelle, thank you for your good work on that. You and staff on finding the history and the background. I'm sure UIS will be pleased with that moves forward.
And thank you for your help, Sean. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Now down to new business item L1. Hopefully the students are still with us. It looks like several of them still are. This is the consideration of the resolution from the students regarding the coronavirus support.
This is Paul. I'd like to make that motion.
Okay, it looks like Donna's got her hand up.
We approve or we adopt the resolution.
All right, I'm going to take that as a support. So motion Cousins, support Fisher.
I'd like to just
That'll do.
Discussion.
make a comment if I may.
Sure, Mr. Cousins.
First of all, I think this is a great idea. And as I mentioned, the chamber had talked about this over a month ago, particularly as it related to the comment of express community spirit. We were talking about supporting the many people that live in our community and the surrounding townships that are nurses and doctors and as well as all the other ancillary people from the firefighters to the ambulance drivers and everything that. So that would fit in real well. And I would be happy to tell you that anything that we would like to, that you would like us to do as a chamber, we would be happy to do that. Buy ribbon for you or help you out in any way that you feel we can. So Ms. Eber, if you can, well, let us know. We'll be happy to work with your group there, but I certainly support this. One other comment that I'd like to make, and this is a bit of history, so I'll take Carol Jones's space here for that. That back in 1970, which we just celebrated the 50th anniversary of Earth Day last week, Dexter was involved in that. I was involved as an environmental ed teacher in Dexter schools at that time. And there was a lot of planning going on in the Washtenaw County, particularly in the Ann Arbor schools and the University of Michigan, Eastern Michigan, at that time about what could be done. And we had great speakers coming in to talk about and speak about those activities in there. It seemed that all of it was Ann Arbor centered. And so me with my big mouth, I raised my hand and asked if there's anything that we could do out county to help support this. And during that time, they said, sure. So we put together an activity where we invited about 200 students from Chelsea, about 200 from Pinckney, and then our 300 or so, 350 or so that we had from the upper classes of Dexter met in the gym. And they supplied a speaker for us, 2 speakers and a folk singer. So the folk singer sang some songs. One of the speakers was Marv Esch, who was a U.S. representative from the Washtenaw County area at that time, and he spoke. And then you young people will not remember this name, but some of you older would. Arthur Godfrey came and spoke at Dexter High School back in April of 1970 for the students there. And so we had our own celebration here in Dexter, as well as all the activities that went on at the University of Michigan and Ann Arbor schools. So a bit of history there, that Arthur Godfrey came and spoke at Dexter High School in the 70s.
Thank you, Paul. Other council comments?
Carol says she was there too.
Good, that's right. Carol was there too. Thank you, Carol, for remembering.
Looks like Zach has his hand up.
Okay, Zach, Councilmember Michelle's.
Yeah, just some thoughts for those of us who may not have ribbon around the house. Mr. Cousins had mentioned potential for the chamber of donating it. One thing that's been floating in my mind is if the students would be interested in taking it a step further, and for those who may not have ribbon or not want to go out and wrap their trees, collecting a donation and doing it for them, and then using that money towards supporting some community group like the senior center or some other worthy cause, with whatever folks would want to donate for that. And that's it.
I think we could share that idea when we share that the resolution's been passed. I don't have a problem with anything they want to do above and beyond. Other council comments on the resolution of support? Okay, Justin, if you would please call the vote to approve the resolution of support, or the resolution to support the showing of unity, please.
Councilmember Knight,
Yes.
Fisher,
Yes.
Michelle's,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Bell,
Yes.
Cousins,
Yes.
and Mayor Keough.
Yes. Thank you, everyone. Motion carries. And thank you, students and the teachers that helped bring this to us. New business item L2 is our last new business item. It's the consideration of the recommendation from Planning Commission to approve the final PUD site plan for Hilltop View Apartments. Mr. Smith has his hand up.
The suggestion motion is on page 125. Make the motion to approve the recommendation of the Planning Commission and information provided by the applicant, staff, Carlisle Wortman, OHM, DAFD, and reflected in the minutes of this meeting. The City Council moves to approve the PUD FSPR Hilltop View Apartments revised final PUD site plan dated March 13th, 2020, in accordance with the requirements of Article 21 of the zoning ordinance, subject to the following conditions, and there's 5 of them listed there.
Okay, I see Ms. Fisher has her hand up, so motion by Smith,
I'll support that.
second by Ms. Fisher. Thank you both. I'm going to turn it over to Michelle to take us through what's here, please.
Thanks, Mayor Keough, and thank you, Council. So you have in front of you the final site plan for the Avalon, excuse me, Hilltop View Apartments. That's the 24 residential apartment units, the food pantry that's going to be operated by Faith in Action, community center, and the ancillary offices that go with it. The Planning Commission, as you know, did postpone it back in March when it was originally up for final site plan approval or recommendation of approval due to some minor details regarding elevations, elevations and facade details. The applicant came back with all of those details and just knocked it out of the park. The Planning Commission was very happy with the amount of detail and effort that the applicant put into providing that information. And so on April 6th, they did make a recommendation of approval to you, subject to the conditions that are outlined in my letter. There are no, anything that's left is very, very minor. Excuse me, everything from OHM's comments about a minor conflict with the dumpster and some of the utilities. They're able to fix that and have agreed to it. They will provide a revised site plan should council approve this recommendation as it's been written. And the development agreement is also in a form that staff and the city attorney are very comfortable with, as is the applicant. Any other changes, just like the UIS agreement, are very minor. If there was anything substantive that were to come about after your action tonight, staff would definitely bring that in front of you. The last thing I will address before turning it over to Scott is the information. You've seen it before, and that's on fair housing. As I've discussed with Planning Commission and City Council before, from a land use perspective, this is a multi-family development. That's what the land use is. That's what the zoning ordinance regulates. The additional services that are going to be provided, or the type of residents that are going to live there, the way the Avalon is financing the project, those are not eligible for consideration as part of a land use decision. And that's why the Fair Housing Act information is provided in your packet tonight, as it has been in previous packets. If you've got any questions, I'm happy to answer them. Otherwise, I'm going to turn it over to the city attorney, Scott, to address the concerns or the questions regarding a little more in depth on restricting making any restrictions on the development.
Okay, before Scott says anything, we have a question by Ms. Fisher.
Yes, ma'am.
Michelle, I looked at the drawings tonight, and I noticed that on the drawings, I looked at my drawings in my packet, And on the front of the building, it indicates the community room, and there's also black lettering that indicates the laundry room. That looked kind of commercial to me, and if you live there, I don't know, why would you need a directive to get you to the laundry? So I'm wondering why that was on there.
Their architect is actually participating in the meeting today, and he had talked about that because there was a question raised at Planning Commission. It wasn't exactly of the nature that you did, but he addressed it, and I'm going to ask him to follow up, and because he'll do a much better job than I could.
Okay.
David Esau, are you available?
Sure, if I can be unmuted.
There you go.
You're all set, David.
Okay, thank you. The desire was primarily to have a sign telling people who are coming in from out of the site how to get to the food pantry. We did show signage to clarify the community center and the laundry areas, because there will be people, visitors coming in, residents, new residents getting used to where things are on the site. That would help them. I don't think we're wedded to anything about those, the community center or laundry signage. Wendy could certainly weigh in if she would like to. They're not lighted signs for the community center or the laundry. So we'd certainly, I think, be open to discussion of reducing the size of those.
Can Wendy be unmuted to address it, Sean?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Go ahead, Wendy.
Yeah, thank you. And thanks, David. Yeah, I would agree that I think we, sort of for consistency, we're putting sign on the food pantry, then also put one on the community center and the laundry. But if, council would prefer we not have one on the laundry, I don't see any reason why we would need one there.
Michelle, if I'm not mistaken, how many of those signs actually face the road? I mean, this is building C that's way back in the back of the site plan.
You'd have to be inside the site to see the signage. You won't see it from the road. Correct me if I'm wrong, David.
Except for the food pantry sign.
Right, the food pantry, yes. The laundry in the community center, you won't see that.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you. Donna, you still have your hand up. Do you want to make another comment?
No, well, yes, I do. I understand it's in the back of the building. Having the community center identifiable, I understand that, and the food pantry, but somehow having that laundry label to me was an invitation. Oh, there's a laundromat here. Come in and use it. And it made rather than residential, it seemed like commercial area. But if that's what majority wants to do, but I did want to raise the issue. That's all. Thank you.
The laundry is not intended for use by anybody other than Ted.
Correct.
Thank you, David. Are there other comments or questions about the motion and the second? I think that the applicant can take Ms. Fisher's comment into consideration as they go forward. Does that sound right to you, Michelle?
Yes, and I see Wendy shaking her head,
Yes.
so.
Yep,
Okay.
thank you.
Okay.
Cousins here. I don't have any problem with where it is since it's not visible from the road.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, just checking my participant window. Any other council members want to speak on this topic tonight? Okay, we had a motion and a second. We've had discussion. I'm going to ask Justin to call the vote, please.
Sean, did you want to hear from Scott Menzel?
Oh, do we need to, Michelle, if we need to?
Yeah, probably only if people have a question about
Okay,
anything that's in the packet.
Yeah.
That's fine. If not, that's fine.
Let's save our money.
Perfect. Well, we've done a good job of following the Fair Housing Act, so.
Yes, I commend
Tonight.
you all. I really.
Okay, Justin, why don't you call the vote, please?
All right.
Thank you.
Councilmember Bell,
Yes.
Fisher,
Yes.
Knight,
Yes.
Cousins,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Michelle's,
Yes.
Mayor Keough.
Yes. Motion carries. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, council.
Can you give us the count for the vote there, please?
It was 7-0 unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you. You're welcome. That concludes our new business for this evening. So we'll move on to council comments. And I'm going to just go in order on the participant window here that I see. I'm going to start with Miss Knight, please.
I have no comment.
Okay. I'm listening to the council meeting.
Okay.
Good night.
Justin, if you could mute Mr. Enos's iPhone, I think maybe. Welcome. Ms. Fisher?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Smith?
I'm good.
Okay. Mr. Cousins?
I guess my only comment is about the community garden. I guess I will wait to hear what the governor has to say on the 15th to see, is that what we're kind of waiting for there, Courtney, and with Olga on the 15th to decide whether we're going to do that or not, because it's getting to a point where people are going to be anxious or not be able to participate.
You want me to answer that?
Yes, please.
Yeah, so she sent an email to all the previous participants, so the applications can be filed, and we're assuming we're moving forward. The
All
only
right.
difference is going to be the workday, so the DPW will probably do more of the work for the workday than they normally would, because I don't know about getting people together for that, but other than that, we should, I just was talking to Wendy, or going back with Wendy today on the kind of temporary agreement with them so that we can keep using it, but as far as I and Olga are concerned, we will open it in May, so.
And is there a specific date that's been chosen for that or not?
No, I need to find out if it's been plowed or turned
Yeah,
over,
when we
but I
kill that.
imagine it, yeah, it'll still be, usually it's around, because usually I'm gone, so it's usually like the 16th or the 23rd, so I would think it would still be in that time frame.
Thank you very much.
No problem.
Good question, Paul. Anything else?
No, I'm all set.
Okay. See, I think I'm down to, I got to do Scott and Zach. How about Scott, you next, please?
Yeah, I just want to say it's good to see everybody. I'm glad everybody is healthy. Y'all seem to be. And I hope to see you in person soon.
Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Likewise. And Mr. Michelle's, how are you?
So far, so good. I just want to briefly touch on planned unit developments. I've seen a lot of people are really confused about them. They are a peculiar planning tool, but there's nothing nefarious or unusual about them. Almost every community that has Euclidean zoning across the country has some version of it. Locally, we have approved 150 Jeffords was a planned unit development. Grandview Commons, and stop me if I'm off here a bit, Michelle. Millennium Place, or whatever that's called now, was a planned unit development. And I suspect Huron Farms, Dexter Crossing, and West Ridge were all also planned unit developments. Is that accurate?
It wasn't a planned unit development, but I had thought the same thing for a number of years. There are actually, now with Avalon, if I remember right, this should be the 12th PUD the city's done. They're currently listed on the zoning ordinance, zoning map that's on our website, and it will be updated to reflect Avalon's Hilltop View as soon as the development agreement is signed.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, did I miss anybody? I think I got everyone. Okay, I just wanted to make one quick comment. I know the schools are also looking for a way to try and recognize the various students that won't have a graduation ceremony this year. One of the school board members had contacted us just informally through email about whether or not they could post or place things on light poles like banners or whatever. And I know we've suggested the use of our overhead banner. So if anything like that comes up between Courtney and I, will be sure to continue sharing that with you. They haven't asked for any formal approval, but we've offered our unofficial support if there's a way to recognize the students. I do know that they've placed signs in front of every senior's home that acknowledges a senior from Dexter lives here, and obviously we're supporting by allowing those temporary signs in place during this special time. So I just wanted to publicly acknowledge that some of that conversation has taken place, and anything we can do to recognize those 290 hardworking young men and women, I would certainly be in favor of. But just wanted to let council know that has had some informal emails on. So more to follow, maybe. Okay, I don't think I missed anybody. So we're back around to non-arranged participation. Justin, if you can help me see if there's anybody that wants to speak by raising their hand, or if you've called in, you can hit *9 to let us know. Maybe you want to unmute people.
Looks like Cole Miller has his hand up, so I will unmute
great.
him.
Great. Cole, welcome again.
Hey, Cole Miller again. I just had a question for Courtney. Following up on, I was confused. It sounded like there's two separate lists for absentee voters, one for March, November, and one for May, August. Was that not right?
So,
Oh, you can go ahead, Justin. That's right.
okay. Yeah, so as a part of the March election, we had sent out absentee ballot applications that included options for both March and November. The intent was when we had an August election, we would have the same option for selecting both August and November. But May is in this weird little spot where people, when we were having a May election, we sent out the absentee ballot applications for May. And since we canceled that election, the May applications are now valid for August. Those who did not submit an absentee ballot application for May, but would like one for August and are on the permanent list for August, we're going to do another mailing of absentee ballot applications to those folks.
Oh, okay. So if I applied for the March primary and checked the box for November,
then you will automatically get a ballot for November. You will still have to submit an application for August.
okay. All
But
right.
if you submitted an application for May, then you don't have to resubmit an application for August.
Okay. All right. Cool. Then I know what to do. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Chief Smith, looks like you have your hand up.
Yeah, Sean. Hey, I listened to Maria earlier, and I heard her mention a number of ways to get reimbursed from the government for stuff, but I wanted to make sure you were aware, or particularly Maria and Dan, that the FEMA Public Assistance Grant has opened up, and this was a really quick grant for municipalities to be able to recoup current costs and projected costs for the virus activities. So maybe you've heard out of it, maybe they have not. But if they have questions, they can email me tomorrow and I can get some information to them. But it's going to have a very, very short window for turnaround to get that public assistance. Dexter City already has an account with them, as does every municipality. It's just opening that up and then being able to submit for it. The second thing, I appreciate you bringing up DAFD and the briefing that was provided there. I do want to encourage people that was probably one of the most in-depth briefings I've gave on anything, and there was a lot of information there, and I believe you still have the recording of that. So if anybody wants to look at that and get the information and see what's been going on in the emergency services community, I encourage them to go look at that. Thank you.
Thanks, Chief.
Thank you, Chief. I did the best I could to give a summary on it, so if I missed something, feel free to elaborate.
Not presented.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I'm not seeing any other hands up. So with that,
Shall I just unmute everyone?
Yeah, let's do that just to be sure we got everybody, Justin. That'd be great.
All right, everyone.
All right,
should be unmuted.
so we'll get a plan for Tuesday, right?
Is there anyone that would like to speak today?
And then
All right, I think we're gonna see that that's no. Okay, I'm gonna move to item O, which is requesting a motion for adjournment, please.
Moved.
Moved by Smith,
Support.
support, second by who is that? Paul?
Cousins.
Okay.
Cousins, yes.
All those in favor, well, all those in favor of adjourning signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Aye. I hope everyone has a good night and thank you for attending this evening.
Thank you.
Thanks for a good meeting.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, everyone.
Thanks, Justin and Courtney.
You're welcome.
All right.